So is everybody else.
All right, very cool.
It's all
Hi, everybody.
Hello. Our fabulous IT guy. I love it.
Were you guys able to have some conversations?
Yeah. Yes.
Good. Very good.
Guess what it was about?
I don't know. What room were you in?
Everybody's talking about the same thing.
Yeah.
Friendship. That's what we were talking about too.
Yeah, we were the friendship room.
All right, David. Let's get ready to rumble, baby.
Let's do this. Let's share the screen. And
down.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody.
Let's get ready.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, Pete, what's up? I saw you.
No, not much.
All right. So Pete Trainer is our invocator today. So Pete, take it away.
Creator and sustainer of all that is or will ever be. Accept our thanks for this day and all the blessings. We ask that you guide and direct our club, its leaders, and our actions. Grant that each of us may feel our responsibility to Rotary, to our community, to our country, and indeed to all countries and peoples. Bless our fellowship today and bless this food to the nourishment of our bodies in your service. Also, let's say a prayer for those that have died of the Chinese COVID pandemic. Pray for those that have recovered. Pray for those whose businesses have failed and closed and their employees. Pray for the thousands of people that have been fired in the last 7 days. Please, dear Lord, look out after us. Thank you very much. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Pete. Appreciate that. Okay, everybody, the four-way test plus one. Is it the truth?
The truth.
Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? And number five, will it be fun?
Yes.
All right, our Pledge of Allegiance.
hey,
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
America. We are led tonight by retired Navy Petty Officer First Class General Wilson.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the lights from above. From the mountains to the prairies to the oceans wide with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless.
Not sure what's happening, but I can't hear anybody.
My home, sweet
Thank you, David.
All right.
Appreciate that. Hey, I don't know if anybody on here, I'm not showing any birthdays or Rotary anniversaries, at least what we're pulling out of Club Runner. Is there anybody on that had a birthday or they're aware that they have a Rotary anniversary this week or their spouse has a birthday? Anybody out there? Or a wedding anniversary this week? Did we miss anybody by chance? All right, I'm not seeing anybody, so I'm assuming I didn't miss any. If I did miss somebody, I apologize for that. And then I see Lori McKenzie's on. Lori, I understand that you just did a ultra marathon running over the top of the Continental Divide. No, I'm teasing you. I understand you're a blue badge recipient, so we're going to give you a little insight today on thank you for completing your red badge requirements. Who was your mentor, by the way? I don't think I have that down here.
David.
David.
Yep.
All right,
absolutely.
David. Good job for being a mentor there, David. Nice work.
Yeah.
So let me jump to my little book here and I can read this stuff out. David, what any insights you got from Lori and working with her as her mentor? Any kind of dirt you can throw at us?
She's really busy at work, and I'm just happy that she was able to complete it. And if she can motivate the other Lori, that would be awesome.
I'm on it.
All right. Well, here, we just want to congratulate you, Lori, on fulfilling your red badge duties. Now that you've completed the red badge requirements, you are ready for your journey of service above self in the Rotary Club of Aurora. I'd like to take this time to just remind you of the four-way test. So everybody, if we could do the four-way test one more time. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And will it be beneficial to all concerned? Lori, it is now my pleasure to provide you with your blue badge. I don't have it with me. If you're at the, if you're able to come next week at the Radisson, I'll officially have either myself or if Rick's on here, he'll hand it to you as you're coming in. So yeah, it should be there. And Linda's probably gotten those all printed up for us. But we welcome. We're really happy to have you as a blue badge member for the Rotary Club of Aurora. Thank you, everybody. Let's give a round of applause.
You did get a picture of it.
I did. Yeah, David did send me a picture of the badge. So thank you very much.
Awesome. That's great. Hey, George, I saw you were on here. Can you give us an update on state of the base? I know you and I have exchanged a couple emails, but kind of what's the status that you're hearing on that?
Okay, well, the state of the base is not going to happen with us as such. There's a lot of things that are going on. Obviously, the base is now, instead of Buckley Air Force Base, it's now Buckley Garrison. It's a Space Force base. The current commander looks very strong, has been selected for Brigadier General, so he'll be moving on. So what he's going to do is do a video state of the base, and we should be getting some information on specifically when that will be released. It'll probably be through Facebook is what he's planning on doing. So I'll get that back to you as soon as I get some information.
Sounds good. I know we had talked about it, and I just wanted to kind of give the members an update. I know historically it's around this time. So thanks for that update, George. Appreciate it. I don't know. Let me see here. Let me look through. I don't see Kimberly on here. Linda, any updates from your side?
The only thing I have is that there is through district a course called Win-Win Negotiations. It's something you register for online. It is on February the 4th in the evening from 6:30 to 7:30. They have a gentleman coming in who's going to talk about the aim of argument should not be victory, but progress, that he borrowed from a British philosopher. So anyway, it sounds like a pretty good class or conference to take. And that's all I have.
All right. Thank you. Just as a reminder, everybody, next week, February 3rd, we will be at the Radisson. So we'll be doing hybrid. So for those of you that are interested in staying on the online format for the near term, we will be doing the hybrid. So David and or Josh will be involved in making sure we have that platform up for people. Once again, how has everybody felt about bouncing into the rooms? Have you had a chance to meet some new people or maybe folks that some of our newer members, have you had a chance to do that? Is everybody liking that? Okay, I'm seeing some thumbs up. All right,
Like it.
nodding heads. Okay. The thing I would encourage you to do is when you're coming into those, think about it when, because David, we just randomly start pushing people into rooms. That's what David's been doing. That's per my request. And part of the purpose in that is just for you guys to meet maybe some of the new members, but also just to kind of find out what everybody's been doing. So if you think about a topic before you get into the room or before you log in, that kind of creates some conversation. So I'd encourage you guys to do that. Tell people what you've been up to during this, the last week. Bob's probably been skiing 5 times since then, that kind of deal. So all that good stuff. Craig, welcome, buddy. Welcome to Zoom. Good having you. He's got a serious look on his face and he's got his Y hat on.
He's frozen.
I think he's frozen.
Yeah.
All right.
Good.
You're frozen.
Yeah.
You're breaking up on us, Craig.
It's all good. Also, if you
Sorry.
If you hate your Zoom room, you can change rooms.
There you go. Hey, David, Lori Banks is right there. Hey, Lori.
Nice.
Good seeing you. All right. So we are almost to our time for our speaker. Anything else anybody has any announcements on? One of the things I want to bring up real quick is we are working towards, I brought this up last week, we are working towards a project, and I've spoken to Regina. We actually added one more to the mix. I think Regina brought this up towards the end of our meeting last time. For those of you that maybe didn't catch it, during the MLK holiday, her and a team of people associated with Second Chance Center and some other members of the community were out handing out meals and actually delivering meals to people in the city of Aurora. And so we've added that to our project list. So now we've got, we're going to start, I'm going to work with Regina on getting a date for that, but it's probably going to be, we're going to start this process sometime in April. So just kind of keep that in mind. We're going to look at doing the Highline Canal, maybe one day on a weekend. We're looking at the farm, which is that place I told you guys about where there is some cleanup and they support kids that have had troubles in their life. And then this piece with Regina where we'll be handing out some meals. So there's opportunities. We're presenting kind of 3 opportunities for people. We're going to be working with other clubs in Aurora. So we're going to be extending that invitation out to them. But we're hoping that you guys, we're not expecting people to show up to every one of these. We really want people to kind of show up to one of them, though. We'd like to get about 80% participation in the club. So if that's possible and you guys can try to sign up for one of these once we get the sign up out there, we'll probably start that once we establish some dates. We're working on the dates with some of these other clubs. I did see something pop up in the chat. We have to get this done before May 8th is what we're looking at. It's on or before May 8th. So that's what we're kind of gunning for. March is a 5th Wednesday month. Thanks for mentioning that, Paul. We may try to, on the 31st, let's try to see kind of, well, we're going to process and see where things are going. If possible, maybe there's an opportunity to go to another business in Aurora, maybe a restaurant. We get a few members, or I may try to shoot for doing something with Blue Star Recyclers that day. And we can go down and do something with them. They were unable to do anything before on the basis of the COVID issues and just protecting their employees and that kind of thing. So thanks for mentioning that, Paul. I will reach out to them. If people are interested, maybe we do that on that 5th Wednesday. All right. Okay. Anything else that I missed? All right. Our speaker today is Debbie Stafford. Hey, John Wolfkill. You mind, would you be interested in introducing Debbie?
Yes, very interested to introduce my friend and great community leader, Debbie Stafford. So I'll tell you a little bit about her. I've got her bio here pulled up, and there's just so many wonderful things to know about Debbie before she speaks to us. In 2009, she completed her 4th and final term due to term limits as a Colorado State representative serving House District 40. Representative Stafford has worked as a domestic violence counselor part-time for the past 29 years. Also, as an ordained pastor, she served on the pastoral staff of 2 large churches here in Denver. She has been with the Aurora Mental Health Center for over 16 years. She's their legislative and community director and program manager for the FEMA Community Crisis Program grant for COVID mental health support. So we're excited to have her talk a little bit more about mental health individually and in our community here in just a few minutes. She's also a nationally trained, so some of you may have come to CCA and completed the mental health first aid program. So she is a nationally trained instructor and is certified to train adults, first responders, including fire, EMS, law enforcement, military, youth leaders, all of those in mental health first aid. One of the things I know about her, she was awarded the Mental Health First Aid Instructor of the Year in Colorado. 4 years ago, she came alongside of one of our very own instructors at CCA who had lost his memory after a stroke. She taught with him at CCA for nearly a year until he regained enough memory to teach on his own. That just tells you a lot about who she is. Besides doing all this in Aurora in Colorado, she's an incredible auctioneer. We've had her at some of our luncheon events. Love watching her do her thing on a stage. She's also an author. She's co-authored a manual called Shattered Dreams, a biblical outlook on domestic violence. Another piece called The Welfare of My Neighbor that she did with the Rocky Mountain Research Council in Washington, D.C. And even recently, A Journey Through Emotional Abuse from Bondage to Freedom. So please, let's give her a great, wonderful Rotary welcome. And Debbie, we're so thankful to have you here today.
Well, thank you so much, John, and thank you. I just love seeing so many of my friends that I've seen so many of you over the years, and what a delight we can still connect today. Also glad to have 2 of my colleagues with me today. We call them the 2 Lauries, Lori Banks and Lori McKenzie. So wonderful people to work with. But I just want to ask the question, how are you all doing during COVID? And I think I've got some slides. And do you think, Josh, I'm not sure if you're able to pop my slides up, Josh or David, maybe they'll be able to come up. And while we're getting those up.
You have the capability of sharing your screen if you want.
Okay. So do I need to hit that?
So you'll need to hit share at the bottom and
right.
then choose the slides that you want to share.
There we go. Okay, so
good. You're good.
How are we doing there? Now, do I need to close something out over here on the side? I'm just going to get you to my first slide. That's the last slide. So here we go. How are we doing?
Go to where it says slideshow at the top.
Gotcha. Click on that.
And go from beginning all the way at the left.
Perfect. All right. Thank you very much.
Yep.
How's that?
Perfect.
So again, right now, as we're really moving into almost a year of everybody really trying to work with the impacts of COVID, the Aurora Mental Health Center actually became a grant recipient to respond to the community and really offer some resources. And so I want to just kind of ask you some questions. As soon as I go back here, I think I hit the buttons too quick. So I just want to ask, how many of you recall when you first realized there's a problem going on in the world? There's a problem. Like, how were you impacted? How did it impact your routine? And I'd love to hear from some of you. I know at my work, I know you wouldn't believe this, but I think I'm thought of as one of the older employees there, although I don't feel that I'm older at all. I'm quite young in my brain. But my supervisor said to me, why don't you just start working from home? And that was before others were asked to start working from home. And I thought, oh no, I'm going to be put out to pasture. Did anybody go through any of those kinds of feelings, or was that just my experience? Or what did some of you go through? Were you worried? How is this going to affect my life? Anybody want to comment quick? I'm good for a comment.
Debbie, there was no change in my life at all. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, in a few minutes, I'm going to be talking about denial. So we'll be happy to get there with you as well.
Well, Debbie, I was already working from home, but our dance class was our dancing. Mary and I do ballroom dancing, and that was all canceled. we wanted to go visit a new grandchild in California. We haven't been able to do that. We're going to have another grandchild come to visit. Haven't been able to do that. So there's a big impact, and it's very isolating. Fortunately, because I'm working from home, I have some other outlets. But these Rotary meetings have been very important to join at least and see each other and talk and have a chance to, laugh a few times. And I also have a camera club that's also meeting by Zoom, and a book club that's meeting by Zoom. Zoom has taken over my life, but at least that's an outlet that's very important, and I think everybody needs to do something so that they can fight the isolation. But it is very, very impactful.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that. Yeah. Anybody else want to share before we move kind of through? Because I really want everybody to be thinking about these questions. I think we think about them, but I want to ask the question, how often do we talk about them? Or do we kind of hold these questions in privately and the concerns? Any other feedback before we kind of go through here?
Hey, Debbie, this is Linda Witulski.
Hi, Linda.
I work for the Aurora schools over at Rangeview, evaluating teachers. And one of the things that I've noticed about this is
Linda, I think you went a bit silent.
Yeah, Linda, you muted accidentally.
I must have hit a button incorrectly. So sorry.
We're talking about the teachers you evaluate?
Yes, and all of the new programs that they've had to learn in order to teach the kids, like something called Pear Deck and Desmos and OnStar and on this and on that. And it's incredible the amount of time and efforts people have had to go to in order to communicate online.
I respect that.
Work. Yeah, a lot of work.
Oh, my goodness. The impacts have been horrific. Well, I'd like you to kind of be thinking about all of these questions in your mind, even as we move through this, how our family has been impacted, our employment. How about self-care? Who here has the guts to say you might have put a couple pounds on during this time of being home a little bit more? Yeah, I gotta, why I sit like this now, so you don't quite see my double chin, because I have to get out working a little bit more on that one. but there, we hear all these different impacts. And I really want us to think about the impacts to each of us. So when we really look at when was this first declared a disaster by the president, it was actually declared on April 30th. But I don't know how many of you can go back by date, but I'm going to go back to, and I think it was about March 5th, when the Aurora Chamber was going to be having their annual event. And I was to be doing the prayer on that, and we already, our system had already looked at that and said, we just think things aren't good and we need to pull back. And then that afternoon, to me, I think the first shock was when the chamber had to cancel their event at 2 p.m. for a 5 o'clock event. That's pretty horrific when you're talking about an event for several hundred people. Yeah. But I wonder how many of you would go back and say, you really can think about, when did you realize that this was going to make a difference? And one of the things that Aurora Mental Health Center did at that time is they set up a support line for the community. And we did something similar when the Aurora Theater shooting happened after July 20th, 7 years ago, and where we began to respond immediately to reach out and allow support for the community. But one of the things that we recognized is there would be a mental health impact pretty quickly. And so we wanted to be able to be available and accessible for people. Well, one of the things that I wanted us to look at today is the pandemic has moved through stages, and FEMA will talk about, and if you don't know FEMA, FEMA is the Federal Emergency Management Assistance Organization. And FEMA will talk about the stages of this pandemic. And so I've done an overlay to overlay the stages to what I would call the 5 stages of grief. And so the first stage, and I promise you, it is denial. The first stage, how many of us, even if it wasn't us, we saw it on the news or we saw it with groups of friends, they said, no, it isn't that bad. It just can't be that bad. And so when we really look at denial, we may have been going through this, how long is this going to be happening? Am I going to lose my job or my business? Who had that fear? The fear of your job or your business? The devastation to our businesses is a worry for all of us. Because we want people to thrive and to be strong. Maybe people who feared getting COVID or who actually ended up having COVID or losing a loved one to COVID. And so I really think was a struggle. Did anybody here go through that time where you just found you were in your pajamas for a couple days and you hadn't thought about the fact that you hadn't gone and taken a shower and you just realized this is not normal for me. This can't be my life. Did anybody go through that stage? I just feel like I'm really alone here, like nobody went through any of these things. You remember in the movie, oh, thanks. So we've got a few that can relate. In the movie Mrs. Doubtfire, when Robin Williams is playing the character of Mrs. Doubtfire, if you don't remember that movie in your free time, go pull it up on Netflix. But Robin Williams, while vacuuming and running around dressed like an older woman, walks into the bathroom, looks into the bathroom mirror, looks at his face with the mask on it and says, "This cannot be my life." And has anybody through the course of this last few months looked in the mirror and said, how can this be my life? It's not the life I know. And so I think that there's a lot of denial that we had to really begin to look at. But then I think people were at home long enough that there was a break. And it's just like we would talk about in the stage of grief, of anger. And I'm not asking for any political piece because even though I have a political historical background, I like to stay pretty neutral and just say, let's care about the people. That's what matters to us. But when I think that when we went through the crisis in our country with George Floyd, I actually think not only did the issue itself trigger people, but I think the fact of COVID and moving into the process of grieving COVID and grieving the changes that were impacting people. And we know that anger is a part of grief. And I think that became a way that people said, I feel so out of control and so powerless being stuck in my home or not having my job or my business is impacted or my children can't go to school. I think that became a part of the energy that people were focusing on, as well as wanting justice and appropriateness. They wanted to feel that they could control something that. Has anybody through all of this felt a bit out of control? Has anybody else felt out of control? Yeah. And so I think as we move through the stages of grief, you go through a bargaining stage. And in that bargaining stage, and I don't know if you can see also the picture of the gentleman's face on this slide, but when you look at his face, it so reminds me of so many of our isolated senior citizens. Maybe even some on this call or that are in this group meeting today, but many people who are in assisted living, in memory care. How many in this group lost somebody, either a loved one of your own or somebody that you know, you lost them not only to illness or to COVID through these times of isolation, but they were in a senior facility and it added to the levels of isolation for them. Does anybody know anybody like that? We lost a very dear community leader. If any of you know Pastor Milton Thomas, he used to lead the program that did Shop with a Cop. He did a lot of getting people back to work and other programs. He's one of our well-known community leaders that we lost through this time. Or Barbara Shannon Bannister, if you know her in the city, her husband passed away in a memory care center of COVID. And so when you think about the trauma and the hurt and the pain that has happened and people trying to say, how do I accept this new reality? It makes such a difference. One day I had some extra flowers and I thought that I would take them over to a senior facility that I know some people there. And I was walking up front and a gentleman approached me on his walker and he said, "Are those flowers for me?" And I said, "Well, they're for somebody else, but I've got more I can give you." And he said, "Oh no, I'm so excited. This was a Wednesday. And he said, my 65th wedding anniversary is this Friday. My wife is in another facility. And he said, I get to go visit her for 20 minutes. He said that was all that he was going to be allowed because of the COVID restrictions. And immediately I went back to my car and got the other flowers and said, sir, please take these flowers to your wife. And you treasure that time with her. But when we think about all of the challenges that everybody has had to experience, how do we accept the challenges? We were chuckling in our friendship room earlier, those of us that are still trying to figure out how to navigate getting on the screen and navigate doing our technology and friendship, virtual friendships by technology. Who would have thought a year ago that we would be doing this? It's such a new change for each of us. And the question is, how do we cope with these changes? Does anybody feel like a bit of your purpose has changed through all of this change with COVID? Has how you do business had to change? Has how you approach your life had to change? I think it's a lot of change. And when we go through stages of grief, some of the things that we know is that in grieving, we try to bargain some reasoning with accepting where we find ourselves and trying to look at how do we cope with so many losses. One of the things I think many people experience, it's called compound grief. So you go through kind of regular grief, you go through denial, sometimes shock, there's anger, bargaining, but compound grief says we've had a lot of losses over and over. And how many of us are just naturally getting to a point where our own parents are aging? We have things happening within our own families. And so not only are we trying to manage our own lives, maybe we've even got our kids or our grandkids or our great grandkids, but we have these generations and everybody's trying to figure out, how are we going to go through these changes? What's my purpose? Has anybody here felt alone at any time during this last few months? I have felt alone. Who has felt alone? Anybody felt alone? Yeah. Thanks for acknowledging that, because even in our households with our families around us, we can feel alone. And what do we do when we feel alone? I think that's one of the beauties of Rotary, is you get to have an opportunity to connect and be not only have friendships, but you're touching our community in a way that really helps touch the pain of other people's grief, not only in response through COVID, but in other kinds of challenges. Another stage of grieving can be depression. Depression is when we might feel afraid. We might feel alone. We might feel hopeless. You look at the person there on the chair with their head in their hands, and just that sense of feeling like they're just drowning in overwhelmness. We know that there are the two most common forms of mental health challenge for anybody is depression and anxiety. And when somebody struggles with depression or anxiety, you can feel isolated, you can feel tired, you're not functioning well, you're not eating well, you just feel like you don't even matter. You don't have to raise your hand or make yourself uncomfortable, but in your own head, answer this question. Have you ever reached a point where you weren't sure you actually really mattered anymore? Even though I'm really young, I know that as we are getting older, sometimes we have to say, do I really matter to anybody yet? Maybe you've not said that, but I bet you there are some that have. We've got so many changes. First of all, just who would have, I'm just going to be straight up with you. We went through crisis in our community in the past when people would wear a mask. That would create an issue. Now we go through almost a crisis if you don't wear a mask. And we are in such a different time. But when we look at all of the losses, I think one of the biggest losses for many people are traditions. Did anybody here alter your holiday traditions this year? Did you? Yeah, John, you said you did. Yeah, maybe you pulled back on how your family celebrated. Maybe you didn't have the big gathering, the big dinner. I heard in our breakout room some who've had to postpone trips and had to really change a lot of the routine that really brought purpose and importance and value to you. But many of our traditions, the things that we're accustomed to. Did anybody have a lonely birthday through COVID? I had my first birthday parade. My kids all drove by with friends and honked their horns. And that was I liked that actually. I could probably just go for a birthday parade every year, and that was fun. But who would have thought that that would have been the only way your family was going to come and celebrate with you for a while? We know that many people have also lost a loved one. And John read in my bio, and especially a lot on the weekends, I come with a ministry background. I think many of you know that. And so I still officiate funerals. And I probably at least do the burial of one person a week who's died of COVID. And that is a pain. And the hardest part for families, the hardest part for military families has been to pull up to Fort Logan and know that you can't walk on the base to be there, and you can't have military honors for your loved ones. You can't have all of those things that people earned the right to receive. Or families who for a period were told, we get 5 people at the service. Which 5 people in our family do we get to invite? We get 10 people. Which 10 people do we get to invite? A lot of social distancing has added to our isolation. Is anybody here like a hugger? I'm like a big hugger. Used to be, I'd walk up, George Peck, I don't know how many times I've hugged you, and Barbara. I'd love to see all my friends. I love to walk up and give you a big old hug. But how many of us know now we say, oh, I better not do that. That's not protocol any longer. But there have also been some positives. Can anybody here see some upsides? I've heard people say, I've had more family time. We've had more dinners around the table together. I've spent more time with my children. Or has anybody said anything like, oh my gosh, I never thought I'd have to be an algebra teacher again. So people have had different changes, things that they had not anticipated or thought that they would be going through. One of the last parts of grief is acceptance. Accepting the fact that we've got to adapt, accepting the fact that things change, accepting the fact that we are going to be okay. In my picture on the left, I showed somebody just feeling comfortable to talk about it. Is everybody here, are you pretty comfortable to talk about it? Or do you find that only situationally would you talk about it? How many of us still meet each other and we have to act like we've got it all together? Is anybody here? We just go put our nice social smile on and we've got it all together. But is there anybody in this meeting today that has ever walked up and smiled to each other, acting like you had it all together, and you were crying inside? You were hurting inside, but you didn't want to tell that to anybody. And I think that COVID has impacted us in such a way that it is almost becoming a little easier to say, I'm hurting, I'm alone, I'm not sure who's really there for me. The picture on the right I added because it feels a little bit like, we're talking about going back into the community. So Thomas Klein, you've got your restaurant at Montview in Dallas, and said that you're back open, and I can't wait. I got to go to dinner there Friday night. I hope everybody goes to dinner there Friday night. Or if anybody else in this group has a restaurant, let's find out where it is and I'll go there. But look at the new norm. The new norm is more people are masked. They're using their own technology, electronics. It's just a different time for every one of us. And together, we will be resilient. Together, we can pull through it. But I think for many of us, it will forever be a change. I used to have a sign on my refrigerator that said, the more things change, the more they don't stay the same. It's kind of a little tongue twister thought. The more things change, the more they don't stay the same. At Aurora Mental Health Center, we did establish a support line dedicated to just talking to people who really just need to talk to somebody. We have people that can help connect people to resources. One of the things, because we have such a large refugee population, and trying to get an understanding and a message out of COVID and the vaccine and all of the other pieces of information that really matter to somebody, we've actually been able to add 11 languages live that are just on our FEMA team moving out, but we can address over 82 languages. But 11 people straight up being able to go into the community and help people understand how to stay safe through all the changes of COVID. Could you imagine going through all the change we've been going through and you couldn't communicate what it meant for you? That would feel even more isolating. We also have been doing a lot of telehealth, and I'm grateful that we've been able to do that. And also we have detox and substance use care. Our detox facility is actually over right across from the Medical Center of Aurora, and they do great care. We have crisis services where if someone's in crisis and it's a mental health crisis, they can go straight into crisis services and not have to necessarily go through a hospital process to get there. We also have representatives working with children and youth. We have therapists in over 90 schools between Aurora and Cherry Creek school districts. We offer mental health care for children, for youth, but we also have partners within the Aurora Police Department. We have therapists embedded with law enforcement. We also have our own homeless path program where we are able to offer day support, housing resources, job resources, and help people stabilize. But we do a lot. And last year we were able to serve about 16,000 individuals in our community. And so I just want to say to you today, you're my friends. And as we're going through this journey of grief, maybe compound grief, maybe change, I hope that part of the acceptance is that our care and our friendship with one another has become stronger. It has not gone away. And so I just want to thank you, John, for inviting me to join you today. And thank you, everybody who's a part of this group. And I don't know if anybody has anything you'd like to ask or say, but I hope it's okay that we can be real with each other. That's what really matters. So thanks for letting me join you.
Hey, Debbie, thanks a lot this is Phil. Thanks a lot for sharing these stages. I think it was super valuable. One question I've got for you is, how do you approach, because obviously everybody you meet is probably in a different stage, and how do you kind of assess that, as far as, because I know you may run across one person that's in denial and another person that's angry, and the approach in a conversation with them could be, I'm assuming, is completely different. How do you approach that?
Well, I think it's fair just to ask somebody, how you doing? How's it going for you? Begin to ask questions, because you're right. Some of us would just be dealing with this as it's affected us, but the next person you meet, they've just lost a loved one, or they've lost their job, or they've had some other trauma, which would easily move us in and out of compound grief. I think it's just better to ask people straight up. I think that is probably pretty fair. But mostly, how are you doing? And then want to hear about it. Sometimes I think being transparent a little bit, I don't think we have to spill our guts. And I don't think it's like if you say to somebody, how you doing from your surgery? And the next thing you know, you're telling them about your surgery. That's not helpful for somebody. But what would be helpful is to say, wow, I've struggled through some of this. How are you doing? That kind of lets somebody know that maybe you're safe enough to talk about it.
Hey, Debbie. This is Josh.
Hi, Josh.
I've struggled with depression, certainly through COVID, but I think my question is, my parents' generation, it was like, suck it up, buttercup, right?
Yeah.
My dad was strong. And I think he kind of instilled that in us, that we needed to be strong, right? But behind closed doors, I think he suffered with a lot of the same things that I'm suffering with today. Do you see that there is a cultural change in mental illness being accepted in our society, or is there still that stigma that's attached to it?
Oh, Josh, those are great questions. And thank you that you can just talk about even your own journey there. But I think there is still stigma. I still think there is shame, but I think we're doing a better job. I think we're trying to talk about it more. I think that a lot of the domestic violence and the pain that we see in people's lives comes from exactly what you said. Big boys don't what? If I threw that out there, who's going to help me answer it? Big boys don't what? They don't cry. Keep a stiff what? Upper lip. And so absolutely, culturally, we've especially taught in our culture for men, you don't feel, You expect a woman to cry, but not a man. And I say one of the healthiest things a man can do is let somebody see how he feels. That makes it real. And so I think we're doing better, Josh, but I think we need to be doing even better yet. And I think Rotary, I will have to tell you, I am so proud of Rotary. Rotary has done a lot of really positive things to help advance people understanding the need for mental health and overcoming stigma. And I'm embarrassed to tell you, for as much as I know so many of you, I'm not clear if your Rotary Club has been a part of promoting any of the mental health first aid programs, but I've actually gone up and trained up north a little bit with a Rotary Club that does mental health first aid for veterans, and they call me in to be a veteran trainer. And so maybe you've done it, or maybe one of your projects down the road might be that Rotary could help advance the message of mental health. And a lot of people drink and use substance because that's a way to medicate their pain. They don't want to feel their pain. They don't want to talk about it. And so oftentimes a coping skill becomes using alcohol or drugs. And that's another reason why we call it co-occurring disorders. When somebody's struggling with one thing, they might be self-medicating with a substance. And so we sometimes have to treat both to help somebody get to the root of their pain.
Debbie, this is Daniel.
Hi, Daniel.
How are you? Quick question. So how do we get information about getting trained? Is that, you mentioned a couple of times.
Oh, for mental health first aid?
Yeah.
If you would like to, we can get your club connected if you'd even like to make it accessible through your club. I can send it through John or any of my contacts there, and we can get you some information. Mental health first aid training is an 8-hour course, and they will go, you wouldn't be a therapist when you're done. I have to tell you that. You would end up being a certified mental health first aid trainer, and it's a 3-year certificate, but they would do a practice with a hard ask. If you're concerned about somebody, you could have the courage to say, are you planning to kill yourself? And we really learn, when do you do those hard asks? I think everybody should have mental health first aid training. And so, Daniel, I'll be more than happy to get that information passed along, and maybe we can get your club engaged in that more.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, Lori McKinney.
Debbie, I've had that training. That is not necessarily through the Aurora Mental Health, but that training is, it's pretty valuable. I mean, it really opens your eyes to some different things that, you wouldn't normally think about. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And Lori McKenzie is just saying she actually just took it yesterday. So she's got a very fresh perspective about mental health first aid training. But I hope everybody here would realize, well, for example, I've trained out at the police department with law enforcement. And law enforcement does a 40-week crisis prevention or crisis intervention. It's called CIT training. And in their 40-week CIT training, law enforcement is really trained to handle a community crisis, going into something. But when I've trained law enforcement members on mental health first aid, what they say is critical incident training helps me be ready for my job. Mental health first aid training helps me cope with myself, my family issues, and my friends. And it really is a way to add more tools to the toolbox.
Hey, Debbie, is your approach, or the Aurora Mental Health, is their approach the same with kids? And are you seeing more, with everything going on with school and everything else, are you seeing a greater number of kids experiencing these stages versus adults, or is it about equal, or what are you seeing from that perspective?
Well, number one, I can't speak 100% from the statistics of it because my role there isn't in the classroom, but I certainly know what I do hear from our experts who are working with kids in the classroom. They see the need has increased, and a lot of our kids then have other family dynamics going on that they are trying to respond to. So our clinicians are doing a mix of virtual, a lot of virtual, and whenever possible, they certainly would do other interventions. But yes, the needs are increasing. And with school being in and out, that's a challenge for them to offer that consistency. One of the benefits of being back in school is that kids who are going through mental health struggles, it's going to be more identifiable than a child that's more isolated at home. But we are seeing it, and we anticipate we will see more.
Yeah.
It's a great question.
I have a question.
Yes, hi.
Hi. So in EMT training or first aid training, that is physical.
Mental health first aid training. Yes.
Okay. But in the other training, in the physical first aid, we have ABCs, airway, breathing,
Correct.
circulation.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have an equivalent in the mental health first aid?
Are you a trainer? Were you setting me up for a good answer? It's algae, ALGEE. Matter of fact, I have an algae right upstairs in my house. But mental health first aid was actually established in Australia. And so algae is a little koala bear. And the acronym would stand for, when we first encounter someone you think has a trouble or has a challenge, and since Lori McKenzie went through this yesterday, or any of you that have been through it, the first A, you're going to assess for the risk of suicide or harm. The L, you're going to listen non-judgmentally. The G, you're going to give reassurance and information. There are two E's. The first E is you're going to encourage appropriate professional help. And the second E is you will encourage self-help and other support strategies, such as, did you know Rotary could be a self-help and other support strategy? AA could be, NA could be, church groups can be. You can get a lot of support by being with your friends. And was it the Beatles that sang that? We just need a little help from our friends, right? Sometimes you need a professional friend that can help hone in on where you're hurting. And sometimes you need a friend just to come and encompass you. Thanks for setting me up for that great question. I loved it. All right. Well, thank you all for having me. And John, thank you so much. And love to see all of you. And I really hope and pray for each of you that you can just continue to be real and support and love and encourage each other right where you are. And again, our support line's there at the end of our call, and I'll put it in the chat for you. So thanks so much.
Hey, Debbie, thanks a lot for joining us today. And sometime, hopefully in the near future, I've got this challenge coin that I'll give you for speaking to the club. It's got the 4-way test on the back.
Oh, I love it. Well, you know, what if I come and crash your lunch next Wednesday?
Hey, come and do it. We'd love to have you. Love to have you. And I'll have this with me, and I'll be able to hand it off to you. So that'd be awesome.
I'm crashing. Save a seat for me.
There we go.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. All right, everybody. Yep. Clap for Debbie. Clap for Debbie. So anything, any other announcements that we need to make? Kimberly, anything? One thing I will say, be expecting an email from Kimberly to choose your lunch for next Wednesday. That's February 3rd. So be expecting that to come through. Any other additions, Kimberly, that I need to mention on that?
It will be out tomorrow. You guys will receive it, and you'll start receiving lunch requests every Thursday around noon. Please respond as quickly as you can. There's a couple weeks where you only have till like Friday, Saturday to respond, because I have to get the lunch order in with some of the restrictions they have with ordering food and so forth. So please respond as quickly as you can when you receive the request for lunches. And I also will be talking to, we will be setting up a couple social events at the Stanley Market, and look for those links as well coming out very soon.
Thank you, Kimberly. All right, John, yeah.
Hey, just wanted to let club members know we've got some exciting programs coming up. I mean, Debbie, what an amazing job. But so next week on the 3rd, Bruce Dalton from Visit Aurora. Then we have our very own, I know I saw him I can't see his face now, but he was here earlier. Bill Wiggins is going to come and share really his journey, life journey, and some really great unexpected surprises along his life journey. On the 10th, we have Maggie Gannon talking about Who Passed, which is, it's going to be a really great opportunity to have a conversation about how we connect and stay connected with those in times like this, and those in other communities and club members. When they pass, how do we know about it? And so we've got a lot of great things coming up. So don't miss any of the next month of meetings.
Thanks, John, for that update. And I appreciate the efforts that you and Sheila have been doing to get speakers lined up. For all of our members, if you have ideas on speakers, please share those ideas with John and or Sheila. They'll try to get those folks set up. If you have contact information, that's the key, is to share that with them so they can reach out to that person and get them lined up. But they're always looking for ideas and looking for opportunities to get that in. So anybody else? Regina, anything from our AG?
No updates other than PETS has registration is open. So for all presidents, president-elect, president nominees to sign up for PETS.
Thanks for that reminder, Regina. We'll get that dialed in. All right. Anything else out there? I'm not seeing any hands up, so I think we're good. All right. That'll be the meeting for today. Looking forward to, for those of you that can make it in person next Wednesday, we'll look forward to seeing you and being in person. And then for those that aren't able to make it, please jump onto Zoom, and that'll be a great opportunity to connect with fellow members. Have a great rest of your week. Everybody stay safe, and ding, ding. Meeting
Phil.
adjourned.
Phil.
Yes.
Can you look at your chat?
Sure. Oh yeah. Okay. When where are you down at your office?
No, I'm actually at home right now.
All right, that's where I'm at. So I don't think you and I are too far apart. Are you over in
The
are you in
farm.
the farm?
Yeah.
Why don't you just text me your address and I'll shoot over there and I'll get that taken care of for you.
Okay.
Because I got a call coming in probably at 1:30, but I can do that in the car on my way over to see you.
Okay. Oh, why aren't you coming up in my phone?
I think you're in mine. I'll send it.
Have a good afternoon, everybody.
Bye, Bill.
Bye-bye.
Take care, Bill. Be safe.
See ya.
I just sent you a text.
Thanks. Okay.
All right, everybody.
Thank you, David. Appreciate knocking this out for us.
My pleasure. We're a
Hey,
team.
Dave.
Josh is here backing me up too.
Hey, David.
Yes.
I'm assuming you need the speaker system next
And
Wednesday.
the screen, yes.
Yep.
Will
So I will.
Kim, do you have that at your place?
I do not. They're at
Okay.
They're at my office. I will make sure I put them in my car today so I have them.
Okay.
And then I'll just figure out that I just have to get there early next week, huh?
Yeah, if you can't, let me know Tuesday and I'll find a way to get it from you Tuesday.
Well, you know what, David, to be safe, it might be better if maybe this weekend you just come pick it up, come pick everything up for me.
Okay. Yeah, just let me know where.
Okay.
And yeah, I'll make arrangements.
Okay, yeah, I think that's just gonna be safer, just so in case I'm running late or something.
Yeah, then you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because you never know with my schedule what will happen.
And I get to practice with the system 2 minutes before the meeting.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So I'll just bring it home today or tomorrow, and I'll because I had to go one place to get the speaker system and another place to get the screen.
Okay. And yeah, just email me and I'll meet up with you.
Okay. Sounds good.
I'll wear a mask.
Okay. Okay. I don't care.
No,
I'm exposed to so many people every day. It doesn't faze me at all.
And you know, I never thought about this. So I know you guys saw in my chat that my dad's in ICU in Miami because his girlfriend is asymptomatic but COVID positive. So she's infecting everybody she meets, which is horribly annoying.
Yeah.
But he's in the hospital and they move him around twice a day to different. So he's been in 5 different ICU rooms. He's been on 2 different rooms on the floors. So every time you call the hospital, you don't know where he's going to be at. You have to ask for him by name, show that you're related, get through. Maybe he answers, maybe he doesn't. Maybe you get his nurse, maybe you get a different nurse. But all these people are in the hospital with no support. And they have nobody in there because you can't be in the room with them or you would get infected.
Wow.
So it's crazy. It doesn't surprise me that there's a high mortality rate when there's nobody that can go in and be a patient advocate.
Yeah, that's been a big challenge to this whole thing is, you know, it's like, and it doesn't appear, some hospitals have different policies as it pertains to that. Because, you know, like my father-in-law he's been in the hospital over the last 3 months. He's been in the hospital 3 times. And the first at Parker, one person could go see him a day.
Mm-hmm.
We went to Aurora